Calling our shot back for week 11 of the NFL season. I got Logan Stacy here with me. How you doing, man?
Doing great.
All right. So as you guys may know, we do write an article every week where we break down every single NFL game on the slate. You can follow our social medias and we'll post that out at Calling Our Shot on every single social platform. But we're going to hop into a couple of the primary games of the weekend slate. First up, Thursday night football. The Cardinals are at the Seahawks. Seahawks are 3-point favorites. Personally, I haven't seen much out of the Seahawks to warrant that, but hey, you never know. How are you feeling about this game?
Oh, I can certainly understand why, the let Russ cook talk. It's a train that's kind of been rolling. They didn't look great against the Rams, and I think that's why, again, the spread's only 3. But there's no bigger Kyler Murray fan on this podcast than me. At the time of this recording, he was plus 800 odds to win the MVP, and I truly believe this is going to be the game that puts him over the top to win the MVP this year. It's kind of a hot take because Russell, Mahomes, those are leading the pack. But if you've watched Kyler play in the Cardinals, it's an offense that's just high flying. It's fun, and the Seahawks defense can't stop a nosebleed. So what makes you think they're going to stop Kyler? I think Kyler's going to have just a field day.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that, and I don't need to beat the drum home more on the Cardinals. They already beat them a couple weeks ago, and the Seahawks have only gotten worse since then, in my opinion. So I'm all Cardinals all day. I think they cover. They probably win it outright, but it's the Seahawks, so you never can count them out. But
I mean, do we have a read on even who their running back is? They're going into the game without a running back. I mean, maybe Carson.
Yeah, I think that's half the thrill. I have no idea. Chris Carson's unlikely to play.
Exactly.
They don't know what they're trotting out there.
You have to be careful. If you're betting Seahawks in that game, you got to be careful because Cardinals could win easily.
I agree with that. So I think we're going to disagree on this next one. The next one is Titans traveling at the Ravens in Baltimore. The Ravens are minus 6-point favorites. How you feeling?
Well, I'm leaning Titans on this one, and yes, Lamar and that Ravens team they looked bad in the monsoon in New England, but I'm a big believer in Derrick Henry. I think the Titans are going to slow things down. Just feed the beast. King Henry is something to be reckoned with. The Ravens found that out last year in the playoffs. Tannehill's he's a good enough quarterback to get it done. And look, man, Lamar's fun. He had his MVP last year, but if the Titans say, Lamar, beat us with your arm, just be a drop back passer, I think that's a recipe for disaster for Baltimore.
Like Lee Corso says, I say not so fast. The Ravens are coming for some revenge this weekend. The Titans, I know you saw them play the Colts on Thursday Night Football, and they got beaten like a drum. They lost by 17 to Phillip Rivers and his noodle arm release. Like I just can't pick the Titans with confidence after what they just did to the Colts. And it's like, yeah, the Ravens look terrible, but like Lamar Jackson couldn't have played worse than he has the past couple weeks. And so I just see them getting back on track against the Titans. I think it will be a back and forth game, but I see maybe Ryan Tannehill making a late turnover. Ravens score a touchdown and they're up by 10 and they're able to cover pretty easily against the Titans. I just don't see them losing, especially at home against the team that bounced them in the playoffs last year. It just seems like the Ravens are destined to win and cover this game big time.
Does anything about the Ravens scare you this year? Let me ask you that question. The Ravens scared people last year. I think opponents look at them as soft this year. They're certainly exposable. I mean, for Cam Newton and the Patriots to just expose them like that, they made them quit. That was the game that it was just very ugly if you were a Baltimore fan. You cannot.
Yeah, everything didn't line up for them. I mean, there's no line. They haven't looked great since they played the Steelers. I mean, they arguably could have won that game, but they haven't looked great recently. But I just say they get it back on track. The Titans defense is up and down. The Ravens do have one of the best defenses in the league. I understand where you're coming from. It's more of like a gut check from me. And I just don't see the Ravens losing back to back. And I see them, if they're going to win, they're winning by more than 6 in Baltimore. But I totally get where you're coming from. Moving on to the next game on our slate, Sunday Night Football. I know there's some uncertainties right now because almost half of the Raiders defense is on the reserve COVID-19 list, but like we've seen in past weeks, they normally are able to clear it and get ready for game time. The Chiefs are -7-point favorites on the road in Las Vegas. Do you think they can cover this week? I know they did lose in week 5 to the Raiders outright when they were 10 to 11-point favorites. You think they get it done?
I'm a believer in Vegas to cover. I'm not gonna be bold enough to pick them out, right? I don't necessarily. I could see this being a field goal game though, and here's why. I think the Raiders have a blueprint on how to beat the Chiefs, and it starts with, of course, we know, keeping Pat Mahomes off the field, but it's also just exposing that Chiefs defense. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that will be if they're gonna stumble, which right now they're easily the best team in the league, but if they're gonna stumble, it's not gonna be Pat Mahomes, it's gonna be that defense. Their DBs, against Aguilar, Ruggs, they carved him up the first time. I don't know what the adjustments they're gonna make, but I believe the Raiders can hang around long enough, feed Jacobs and keep it to maybe a field goal game.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just don't think the Raiders have. I just don't think they can do it 2 times in a row. Pat Mahomes and his crew gotta have taken that loss personally. They're 8-1. Their one loss coming to the Vegas Raiders by, I believe, 8 points in Kansas City. There's no way they're coming into this game underestimating the Raiders like they might have in week 5. I just see a big game for Pat Mahomes, and by chance they do get up early. I'm not counting on Derek Carr to get some touchdowns and keep pace with them. I mean, you are right. The way to beat them is to keep them off the field. But if somehow the Chiefs do get out to a 2-touchdown early lead, it's all she wrote. There's no way they're coming back from that. The Chiefs defense has played better as of late, as of really the whole season. They're an underrated squad, in my opinion. And the Raiders just don't have the talent on the offensive side at the moment to kind of contend with the Chiefs.
Oh, you're wrong. You're wrong. The Raiders do have the offensive talent. That's where you're wrong. I mean, they have weapons that you're disrespecting Darren Waller. You're disrespecting Ruggs. Aguilar, for all the slack he got, in Philly, he's been balling this year. I don't know. Clearly you haven't been paying attention, but he's been doing well. These weapons are good enough to put the league on notice. The Raiders are one of those surprise teams no one saw coming, and I think that's what they like. They like being the 7-point underdogs at home. They like playing with the backs against the wall. Now, if you had the Raiders favored in this game, I say the Raiders lose by 1 million. They're not in that position, but they're playing with nothing to lose against Kansas City. That's why the first time they beat them, and I think they can keep it close again. I don't see why not.
I guess we can agree to disagree. I've watched some Raiders football, and I know they're a very streaky team. Anyone can beat up on the Broncos like they did last week. So we'll see if they can do it again this week against the Chiefs. And as for the last game on the slate that we'll be covering, the Rams visit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Bucs are 3.5-point favorites. This is the Monday Night Football game. Everyone's going to be watching. Who do you got?
I have the Rams, and here's why. I think I really like what I'm seeing from the Rams defense. That I'm not putting any stock in Jared Goff. I think he's a little bit turnover prone. He's a little fluky sometimes. But Sean McVay knows that. Sean McVay is an offensive genius. He knows what Jared Goff can do well and what he can't do. When you ask Jared Goff to drop back pass and win you the game, that's not his style. He's a game script kind of guy where it's check downs, dink and dunks, just stuff to game manage. I think, and coming back to that Rams defense, I think they can put pressure on Brady. What is Brady's weakness? He hates when there's defenders in his face. He hates when he's just always having that pressure. And the Rams are great at that. Aaron Donald's a beast. Everyone knows that. Jalen Ramsey, he could lock up maybe Mike Evans, someone like that. I think I like the Rams.
Yeah, I just don't see it. The last time the Bucs were on prime time was when they got throttled and beat down by the Saints, and they were at home at Raymond James, and they lost 38-3 on Sunday Night Football. I don't see that same thing happening this weekend. The Bucs are finally fully healthy. They finally have Godwin and Evans back. Gronk's looking like old, and then they finally have Antonio Brown kind of working in the fold. I think this will be a close game. I do agree. They might force Brady into some turnovers because he doesn't like pressure right up the middle. But if they're able to give him a clean pocket, I don't think Jared Goff is going to be able to put up points like Brady will be able to put up points against this Rams defense. But I do expect a close game. If I'm going to bet, I'm going to be betting on Brady and not on Jared Goff, who I've seen not play very, very well on the road in Tampa.
I understand the point about Goff. That's why I said I'm not going to put a lot of stock in him. But Cup, Woods, these are good weapons. Sure, maybe they're a tier under Mike Evans and Godwin, but warning, the Bucks are exploitable. That Bucks defense, for as much as praise they were getting early in the year, Drew Brees is old. He's a little rusty, and he carved them up like Swiss cheese. So I think Sean McVay might use that as a blueprint. Watch out for the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I guess it's just another game that we'll have to see. It could really go either way, and that's why the spread is so close. You don't really know what to expect. Everyone's kind of hesitant about this Bucks team, given their performance last time. The Rams are looking good. They just beat the Seahawks. They reduced Russell Wilson. He was able to force him into a couple turnovers, and that was really all that they needed to do. They didn't even need to score that many points. So it'll be interesting to see, as well as the rest of the games on the slate that we didn't cover. Like I said, we do write an article every week. You can find it on our social medias at Calling Our Shot on Twitter and Instagram. We will link the article and we pinned. You can go look at the rest of ours. If you're betting on any of these games, feel free to take our advice. We're giving out free money over here. Any closing thoughts, Logan?
No, you said it perfectly.
All right, you guys take care. See you next week.
Peace.